Hello, welcome to stream number 86 in this series where I'm programming an NES game live on Twitch from scratch. Sorry about last week. Thursday, just was feeling kind of drained from a long week, so we had a little unexpected break, but hopefully you all had a good week and a good weekend, and got a chance to watch Zero Pages Episode 3. That's been up for about a week now. Seems like a lot of people are really liking it, and they've gotten a lot out of what I put up there. I've gotten some suggestions for additional topics to cover in those zero-page episodes, so I'm definitely going to try and put some more of those together. The suggestions I've gotten have been more either detail-oriented or towards going into a starter project. So starting your first assembly file, like a Hello World type thing. And that blink test program that I have from the initial zero-page episode is kind of like a good starter, but of course it's already pre-filled. I'm gonna have to put together some material on the configuration file for CC65, which if you've never looked at that before, or you've ignored it when we've kind of touched upon it here, it's cool because it's pretty comprehensive. It's got a lot of configuration you can do here, but because it's so comprehensive, it tends to get a little bit overwhelming for people who aren't familiar with how that all works. So I think that'll be a good episode where we'll, instead of me doing a lot of voiceover and then putting together graphics for sort of the more informational episode, we'll do one where it's a more sort of like this, where we're actually looking at the project together. I'm going through making the changes, and I'm going to try and keep it short again, down to episode 3 was about 20 minutes long, and that was just because there was really no way to make it any shorter. Just with all the content in it and background information I wanted to give, it was hard to make it short. But for follow-ups on specifics to assembly language and some more of the specific development items, I don't think I need to give quite as much background now, because we've gone through getting things set up and number systems and assembly language, and now we can get into some more details about assembly language and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get into some more of those topics. For tonight, I'm going to try and keep it relatively short. So Jordan has been working on some graphics, and we've been spending a lot of time sort of discussing what we want the game to be, design-wise and story-wise, and so we've got quite a bit of work there to do. One of the things, so from last time we got collisions working. Oh, that's one of the things I wanted to do. So I don't know why I did this when we were working on this, but I, for some reason, had it in my head that we need to do this subtract, which, I mean, it works, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not as, and we'll test this out, but it's not as efficient as just doing the compare. I'm not sure. I think it was because we were doing that for the sign comparisons, but like, so if we have two numbers, right, if I load 5 and I compare it with 5, we'll see 0 is set and compare is, carry is set here. I know this is probably a little bit hard to see because the browser is a little bit on the small side here. Whoa, let's see, there we go. So carry and 0 are set to 1. So if we then were to look at this compared to what we were doing here, where we have the exposition of the player and then the exposition of the entity that we're comparing against. So if the player is at, say, 7 and the exposition of the entity that we're looking at is at 5, then what we would see is that the carry continues to be set here, whereas if we then made this bigger, the carry should be clear, just like we're doing with our set and subtract. But it's my understanding that this is actually going to be a little bit more efficient because the set and so let's take a look at this. Not that we're running slow or anything, but it just also kind of makes it a little bit more confusing. So we have our set. This is 2 machine cycles. And then we have our subtract with carry, right? Whoa, what was that? Oh, I did the wrong key combination. There we go. Sorry about that. It's been that kind of a day. All right, so subtract with carry. So we're going to be doing... let's see, our entity exposition X, so that's an absolute X. Well, it's a 0 page X, so that's 4 cycles there. So that's 6 cycles total, versus just a comparison, let's see, which is 4 cycles. So we shave 2 cycles off by not doing the set carry. It's not astronomical, but because we're doing it a lot, it will matter. So we can do this comparison this way, and we'll make sure that we didn't break something by making this change. But yeah, like I said, I'm not sure why I was so hell-bent on doing it. I mean, the thing is that the compare operation is essentially the same thing, right? A comparison is like doing a subtraction, except that it doesn't store the result in A. And so it should, in theory, yield the same result, and not clobber the value in A, which I guess we don't necessarily care about right now, but just for kind of getting into the habit of doing this the right way, we can be a little more efficient. So let's see if that broke anything. So check player collision, I think, was with the enemy bullets. And then we can also do the same thing with check bullet collision if we're similarly... so that all worked. Let's rewind and check. That worked. That worked, right? That was... yeah, that was good. That still works fine. Okay. So, and then this one, let's see. Check bullet collision. What is this? Check current identity. This contains the index of the preceding call. Oh, this is the player check collision. Yeah, it looks like I'm doing that already here. Yeah, it's just some weird thing. I don't know what got me into thinking I had to do that, but whatever. It was a simple change. So that's that. Let's see here. So the other thing we probably want to do is check the bounds of the enemy bullet on the right and the left, making sure that it does not go off the edge of the screen, and then wrap around, because if you notice when we were just watching that there, the enemy firing the bullet wraps around when it hits the edge. Again, not a major problem, but something we probably want to fix. So let's see. So right now for the X position, we're just literally incrementing it. So what we should probably do add one. That, well, is that better to do? I guess it doesn't really matter. Increment at load A with that. And then what we want to do is we want to make sure that the bullet position is not greater than the edge of the right edge of the screen. So the right edge of the screen is 255. Well, it's 256 pixels wide, so 255 is the most it's going to be, and at that point it's already wrapped around. So what we want to do is we want to check to make sure it's not 255 minus 8, so 247. What's that next? F7, so compare it with F7. So like we were talking about before, basically this is going to take what's in A and do essentially like a subtraction. And so if it's bigger than that, the carry will be clear, and if it's smaller than it, the carry will be set. So branch carry set. Well, so if it's bigger than that, we're just going to jump to this next label here. Otherwise, where is that? Clear entity. Right, so let's just double check that that's right. And for the left bullet, what we'll do, because we're referencing the top corner of everything, we'll just check to see if the value is 0, and if it is, then clear it out. What happened? Load A, X position, compare F7. What happened to the enemies? How did that break the enemies? Any position X, compare, clear entity. Store A, Y position X, branch carry, clear. Strange. So why did that break the game? Definitely broke it. Is it despawning the enemy accidentally? see. Increment, load A, compare, branch if carry is clear. Subtracts that from A, it's bigger than it clears it, which means that we're okay. Otherwise jumps to that. Clear entity. Add carry to Y position, stored carried on subtraction. Branch carry clear to here. Load A, enemy data X, enemy bullet left. Compare. Bullet straight. Is this some sort of weird thing with the label? I'm not going to keep that. I'm just trying to figure out what the behavior is that's causing this. It's strange. No. Clear entity. And then clear entity is load no entity type X. So whatever the value of X is, which wouldn't have been changed. Enemy bullet done. Check player position. What am I missing? Load A, compare to F7, branch carry clear. So let's like if load A F0 compare to F7, carry is clear, right? Which is what we would expect. If it's set F8, carry is set, in which case we'd go to clear entity. Which just takes whatever the thing is that we're looking at here and zeroing out the entity. Alright, let's look at it in the debugger. That's strange. I'm clearly just missing something, but it's odd that this is triggering wow, okay, so it's not even, it stopped spawning the entities because I added this code. Check player collision. How is that possible? Map object. Oh, that's the wrong. Where's shooter? Stop triggering that code. What is going on? How is it that this being here? Let's do this. Let's just have it do the comparison and do nothing else. Okay. So the comparison doesn't matter. So, like if I do that now, it's behaving. Let's see, carry 33 and F7. So carry is clear. I mean, all of that is looking fine. And then branch of carry is clear. No, branch of carry is set to, can I just do clear entity like that? Or am I going to be out of range? I feel like it's going to be out of range. Yeah, it's out of range. Branch of carry is clear to this. Well, to skip, destroy bullet. Right. So what about adding that has changed the code at all? I mean, other than the obvious changes, the only thing I can think of, which is totally random, but did we somehow run out of prog ROM in that bank? And CC65 didn't warn us? I mean, doesn't look like it. The enemies aren't loading. This is pretty odd. Is it just always calling clear entity for some reason? Let's remove these breakpoints. And go back to this and clear entity. Let's see what it's doing here. Is it immediately clearing the entity after it creates it? Well, it doesn't even seem like it's creating it, which is even more. Okay, so X is 9. 9. Where's my script? Let's restart here. Let's see if we see the entity pop in. I don't know why X would be 9. Oh, because, okay, that's right. So that's the cloud going away. What on earth? This is very strange. Let's see. Enemy bullet, ASM. That shouldn't matter. Where's the call to do that? Range of equal, done with objects. Compare X. Level object count. 10. 0. Level object data. 2. Y. Camera Y position. I don't understand how that would be. Load A, X position X. Why on earth would that be causing this to stop working? Like, there's nothing. What is it loading here? So it's loading level object data with basically it's just going through our object list, right? And it's determining if the position of the position of the object would match with the position of the camera. It says there are 10 objects. So we haven't loaded any of them. So it knows we haven't loaded any of them. It's going to load A with 0. It's going to store the entity 3. Load level object data. Spawn at the top of the screen. right? This is the enemy type, which is 2. We're going to increment Y. We're going to load. This is the X position. Increment Y. And then this is the... Is that the position? How are we storing this? This is a weird one. I'm not sure I fully understand what is causing this behavior right now, if that's not perfectly clear. So we are writing out for our objects, we are writing out the type, the X, and the Y. And the Y is a 16. So the Y position that seems wrong. If this is a multi-byte, oh no, okay, so what it's, but why is this the Y position versus the Y, or is the camera, oh, the camera only has Y position, it doesn't have, right, okay. It doesn't have a, it's always in the world position, I forgot. I was thinking of how the other code works, where for the objects, they have both a local screen coordinate, Y position, and anyway. So, are we messing up the comparison somehow? I don't know how that would be possible, especially since, let's see, where does that code get called? This is the play state. This is checking the object right away. That's in here. This is a clear entity, skip entity, done processing entities. This is setting up our OAM shadow. Oh, wait a minute. Is it not? Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This should be in just our game loop. So there's our NMI. Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay. I got confused by the naming there because for a moment I was like, wait a minute, it's not actually drawing the entities, is it? It's not. This actually all goes away. That further added to confusion because there is no DMA access directly here. So, is Y position getting messed up? Is that the camera? Want the value of that, please. Am I somehow corrupting the memory of the camera position by doing this? And that's why it's then thinking that it's not supposed to spawn anything. We can even check this by... So camera is at 6C. Where's our script here? Let's just, for completeness, mu.read 6C 2 bytes. I don't know if that's going to work exactly, but we'll see. Read. Oh, I didn't. Mem type.cpu and then to. How do I make this? I think it is a... Let's take a look at the documentation here because I don't remember if mu-read will understand that the 2 bytes are... Let's... oh, read word. That's what we want. That was reading 2 bytes, I guess, separately. So let's see, address type and signed. Oh, I was misinterpreting what that was anyway, so false. Okay. That's why it's important to read the documentation. Okay. So that's what it is when it's not working. If we go back and change this code here, and just make it do that. Okay, so we have that running, we're running that. It's the same counter, but we're going to get enemies, aren't we? Yeah, we got enemies. Why? Well, the only thing I can think of is that somehow we're pushing data Let's take a look at this for a second. I wonder if the configuration for CC65 is improperly configured. I don't know if you remember from one of the other streams, we had a problem where we were going past the 0 page, and rather than CC65 complaining, it just said, hey, no problem, and it compiled because this was configured wrong, and then we ended up with a problem. So we need a couple of things, right? We need the NES Dev Wiki. I want to take a look at MMC3, which ironically we really don't need anymore. But let's see, our prog banks are prog RAM capacity 8, 8, and 16K. Fixed. Now, I believe let's see what this is. So that's 8K and that's 8K. I wonder if we are outside of our 8K and we're just pushing, like, you know what might be a good thing to do to test this idea? Let's just put a bunch of junk instructions here, right? We should see some other weird behavior now. Actually, we don't even have to do that. Let's sorry, that was, we don't have to do quite that many. What we can do is we can say, all right, so we knew this worked, or sorry, this worked, and adding in just a few more should make it break, regardless of what we do. It doesn't have to be quite so many. This is just testing the theory that we've overrun the bounds of the bank, and as a result, we are not spawning enemies anymore. So let's see what it does now. So that did spawn that time. We're just not. I mean, if this causes it not to break, then we know that this is totally a bogus theory and that it's some other weird behavior that I'm not understanding, which is fine, but I want to see if we can kind of make this behave consistently to understand it better. So let's see if those no-ops trigger the same. No, that's not triggering the same behavior. So it's something to do. All right, well, I feel a little bit better about that because I was worried that we had somehow broken the game through the ROM bank being too big, but it doesn't look like it because, I mean, unless I just haven't added enough no-ops, which doesn't seem like at this point it should be breaking it if it's that problem. Oh, in fact, let's see. Is that our code? Huh. Can we? No. All right. Well, where's the Lua? So we run that again. I mean, at this point, if it doesn't break, then yeah. So it's okay. Well, it was worth checking. So that's really strange, though. Why? Then why, for example, doesn't it break it here at the top? Store any Y position, branch carry clear. Because it's not even getting called, but that makes no sense either. Is there some sort of weird scoping issue? Process enemy bullet is undefined. And shooter as M. Jump to process enemy bullet. So that's there in this scope. So I can move that there so that it's out of the scope. Now what would be curious is to see if that suddenly starts working. Okay, no. Wow, man, I am a little stumped on this one. Putting it in a separate scope doesn't seem to matter. Check player collision. That doesn't call anything. Check player collision does. That's in its own scope. Entities, exposition. How would that break? What if I just do this? If I just clear the carry so that it always jumps past that, does that somehow magically make it work? Yeah. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. So this call to clear entity, I don't know, or that jump to clear entity, why? Why would that matter? Why would that matter in the case of something that's not even being called? Or is it being called and we're just not aware of it because something else was going on? So let's say clear entity. We know that the cloud clears the entity when it is done. So X is 9, which is the beginning of the second entity. So it is loading A with no entity. It is then storing that in type, loading FF into the X and Y position, and jumping to entity complete. Transfers X to A, clear the carry, add 12 back to X, compare to total entities. Branch if equal, otherwise it's going to go back. At this point, there should be nothing. Is there some sort of weird bug in the assembler? How would I do this? How would I do this to make this? Check player collision, jumps to entity complete on its own, so that's okay. So basically what I'm doing is I'm jumping to this and then jumping to clear entity to see if that changes the way the assembler builds the code. I wonder if there's some sort of bug. It's totally bizarre. And there it is. So, what the hell? So does that mean that then the enemy bullets are clearing out when they hit the right? That one is. Alright, does that even look right? Alright, so it looks like we may have hit a bug in the assembler. Possibly. That is... Why would it be doing that? Are there multiple... Jump, clear entity, there's that colon there. It only exists in the one place. There's sub-clear entity that I just created. But that's really strange. Unless it's something because it's being included from another file, the assembler is getting confused about where to jump to or where to generate the code. It's so... Here, we can even try this, right? So this is, we know this doesn't work here, but if I take this and instead of including it, just paste it, which is essentially the same thing. See if that works now, even though before the code didn't work, it was just in a different file. Huh. Interesting. So it still doesn't work. Still doesn't work, but that is pretty strange. The only other thing I'm wondering about is there some weird sort of issue with the take a look at this here for a second. So, what was that called? Enemy bullet. EBO3 and clear entity. Over there. It's odd because Messin seems to have no problem finding it. 6B91. EB91. Let's go find EB91 in Shooter Asm. EB91. EB91. It's right there. Huh. I don't know. I really don't. That's a strange problem. If anybody else has any experience with this kind of a thing, I mean, the only thing I can think of again is that I think it might be the assembler is got some sort of bug in it, because if we do this, which just jumps to clear entity. So it's a jump to a jump. Then everything is fixed. There's our enemies flying by. All right, well, let's fix this one too. You know what, let's say, instead of 0, well, 0 is fine. If we hit 0, then, yeah, otherwise go to here, and then jump. Oh. What? So, I actually made a mistake in typing this, and that then fixed it. I wonder if there's some sort of strange... I'm going to have to ask the guys on NES, on Nintendo Age, if they've encountered anything like this, because that is really, really strange. So just simply adding this fixed the problem, because I didn't even make it jump to the right location. Seems like a kludgy way to add a fix, but I'll have to ask, because I don't think I've ever seen that before. And oh, all right, so that's, well, let's try and do this without me dying so I can test it out all the way. That's good. They're not looping around, so that's oh, okay. All right, so that fixes that. I'm still totally perplexed by this problem. But okay. What else? I'm sort of half tempted to, since we spent all this time fighting with a weird technical issue, I'm tempted to go in and rip out the MMC3 code completely, since we don't care about that, and switch our mirroring. Because if we switch our mirroring, since we don't care about this part anymore, then our updates will occur in a way where they're not wrapping on the bottom, and then our half updates that we're doing here are no longer necessary. Although I will add that part of what I was thinking about doing, and I don't know how possible this is, and I need to do some research before I go into doing it. I was wondering how possible it would be to do some sort of effect on screen where it looks like an overlay by swapping between the left and right horizontal to kind of give almost like a semi-transparent look. Because part of what I was thinking would be cool to do is it would be interesting to have a type of barrier that you could fly through if you had a specific ability enabled, but that you can't do multiple layers, right? You just have the one background layer. So I'm wondering if that would work. I have to research if any games do that or not, and see if that makes any sense. And then that would be a reason not to change this, because we'd end up using this for that effect, and we'd still have this, this problem on the bottom, which isn't really super noticeable. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's not awful. Not great, but not awful. Yeah, I'm kind of not sure what direction to go in now. And part of that is because, I mean, we could just do something like adding in real art here to kind of make it look a little bit better. Like I said, we're still trying to work out the actual design elements here. We've got the we could add random spawning of the clouds instead of just the one that starts in the beginning. Not sure if I want to do that. Let's see what just pull down here. I'm gonna be able to do this without it being a problem. Sorry, I'm on the other screen. I'm gonna try and grab some of the art that Jordan has done here, and we'll see if we can incorporate some of that. See how that works with the overall flow of the tools. All right, so that. Is this not? This isn't loading in an A-Sprite. Damn you, Adobe. I'll have to kill Photoshop once it loads. It's not what I wanted to open. All right, so here's some artwork that he built. I'm liking the way it looks. It looks really good compared to especially what I've got here. Thinking I want to start with... Get out of here, Photoshop. I know you can't open it. You weren't supposed to. Thinking I want to start with this. So looking at this, this generally fits in. These things are built, it looks like, for sort of the auto tools in tiled, which is fine. But the problem is, of course, we need to make this fit into the NES's tile sets, and our meta tiles are 32 by 32. So we're going to have to be a little less creative than what he's built here to some extent. But we can still use, we'll play around with this and see what we can use. So let's see. Start with the water. Which is just this simple 8x8. And can I just select that? Let's see, what is that layer that I'm looking at that has the lines above it? I just want that. Grab that. And let's make a new 32x32, and we'll keep it RGB for now. And okay. And let's change the palette to NES. Where did you paste that? Hello? Copy. Not copying the right thing. What are you copying? R key. Okay, so select that, copy it, paste it. Oh, there we go. And I don't know if there's a faster way to do this, but we'll do it this way. So there's some water. All right, so let's save that as water. And then let's open up tiled. We're gonna have to make a tile set out of that and put that into the map everywhere. We have the blue tile. New tile set, 32x32, water, based on tile set image, browse. There's water. Yep, save that. Okay, there it is. Let's export that bad boy over to the tile sets. Still does not work with the proper extension. All right, so now let's import map, add external tile set, water. Let's see if there's a way. I wonder if there's a way to replace. That would be kind of cool. Tiled replace tile with tile set. I assume there's a way to do this. You'd either have to overwrite the image or edit the map. Okay, we can do that. It's really not that hard. It's just an XML file, so where's the map? So we'll make this one. Let's see, so blue is this one, so we'll call this one water, and we'll say we can actually get rid of this because we don't care about it anymore, and it should just swap now. All right, now we have some water. So let's export this as map.json, replace that. And now let's make a meta tile from that thing, because we don't have one of those. So NES asset tool, PNG to meta tile, water, PNG. I don't think that worked, and I think that's because yeah. Okay, so I believe the problem is that I did not change this over. Yep. That would help. Alright, so that doesn't really change anything for the map, but it does change it for... There we go. And that looks good. So I'm fine with that. NES asset tool. Export. Shooter. Assets. Map. No. Shooter.txt. So that should have exported everything. I don't think we even need blue tile anymore, but we'll just copy everything over like we have been. Draw Entities Inc. What's the deal with that one? Check-in sprite, load x00 increment. That's weird. That's new. Let's try that again. If this still has a problem, then what we'll do is we'll debug what happened. That looks better. It still seems to be finicky about where you run it relative to things. Segment chars overflows. Okay, that's fine. Let's take a look at what we're actually including here. So let's look. It's not in here. Where's shooter dot? There it is. So here's shooter char. So that is, where is that file? Metatile. How many metatiles are we exporting? Is it because we've... Oh, it's the bin. Where is the include file? Gradient, water, green, bumper, asset filler. That shouldn't be. I mean, we can get rid of gradient because we're not really using it for anything anymore, right? Just kind of weird that that is making it complain, but okay, let's re-export that. Oops. Oh, damn it. No, 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 no. You're going to help me out, Windows, and undo that, or are you just going to be... Oh, good. Thanks. How big are these files? Let's see. I'm surprised we're... So that's 2K. But, I mean, the thing is, though, we're only... So water.char, that's 1K. It's 256 bytes. Green tile, which should be 256 bytes. Where are you? That's 256. Bumper, which should also be. So that's 756 bytes, and then this is wrong? Is that what the problem is? That the asset filler is... So it's... 768 plus 1904, 2672, which is not... It should be 2048. Although... That raises this question. We should have 512 tiles at 2 bytes a piece. That's 1K. ROM C 8K. Character bank. That shouldn't be. By 19K. How is that possible? Entity char. What are the entities including? Even still, that should be relatively small. Oh, that one's pretty large. That's 512. Really? That's 5... I guess it... Oh, I guess because it's 2 by 2 tiles. Player is over K. Cloud is 2K. And a bullet is 512. So I guess we're overflowing because we have some big ticket sprites in here. Like if I still by 3K. I guess the asset tool should be perhaps warning us about that. Wow, that seems strange that by taking out metatile character, why did this just start complaining? Water. Let's do this. Let's create a folder to put all of these things into here for a second. Come on. Water, green tile, bumper, so there's filler, and then for the endies we have quite a few. We have explode, which we know is really huge. That's definitely not helping things. I mean, if we take... Well, that's the thing, though. If we took explode out... I don't understand how this wasn't a problem before. Right? Like, that, to me, is sort of a mystery at this point now, that only now is it complaining about how big the ROM... Something seems wrong. I wonder if the export process broke. Okay, so that definitely is wrong. The water loaded correctly. Huh. Let's do something else. I want to see. So that was what I had added. But now it's by 17K. How is that possible? Tonight is the night of strange problems. Let's close up these files here for a second. Let's go back to the export folder for a second. Let's clear this out. Make sure there's nothing hanging around. We're not running into a problem where it's incorrectly updating existing files, making them too big, or something like that. All right, so we can get rid of that whole folder. It's beyond me that it takes several seconds for Windows to delete an empty folder. All right. Why is the size different this time from the last time? Let's take a look at the assets we have here. So let's get rid of this. We don't need this blue tile anymore. Get rid of that. We don't need that blue tile thing anymore. Blue tile, that can go away. That can go away. That can go away. That can go away. All right, so all the blue tile stuff is gone. Assets, PNG. That looks fine. That's fine. What's in this? These are all our included sprites. That's the level palette. We have, let's take a look at this here and what was exported. These are the enemies that were exported. Here is water, green tile, bumper, scout, medium. That looks fine-ish. $100 width 8. So that's that. Water tile set. Let's see what that looks like. $32 by $32. Tile count 1, columns 1. That all looks okay. That looks fine. I don't really understand why all of a sudden this thing is complaining about how big everything is when all we swapped out was the blue tile, and now we're almost 20K over size. And we can have 256K. Where? Well, this is just one ROM bank, so, but still that doesn't make sense, because even if we had this overflowing the 2K, it would have warned us before. Bonica Games, are you talking about the... I'm not sure which big list you're talking about. We have a couple of different lists. This is the lists of the entities, the sprites in the game, and we also have this list of background stuff. Something is just goofy here. This is for backgrounds. Metatile palette table. Create asset filler.char, file greater than 0, 255 minus current background tile times 16, so figure out how many. Did we overflow something and that caused it to generate a huge file? Current BG tile less than 255. $88. Files greater than 0. I wonder if by exporting it this way it works for some reason. Like I said, I know there's some sort of weirdness in terms of like where the export gets run from, having potentially problematic effects, but I didn't think it was that broken. We may have to go in and look at what's going on if that's actually the case. Whoa, okay. What is this doing? Done sprite. Redshift equal to done sprite. Check in sprite. Oh, this was a, I think that was what that was. I think there's a bug in the way that it's generating that. And then that worked. I think I'm going to have to go and take a pretty long look at how the export process is working and why it's... Is this going to... So this works now. That is I mean, it's great that it works, but it is also extremely strange. We're also getting this sort of weird shimmering effect. I don't know if it's just the way the emulator is updating or if that's something that would actually be visible on the real hardware. Nope. Let's take a look at our water. Those are the right colors. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Can we? Is that the scaling, or is that might just be an effect of the way that Jordan has drawn the water, because it's got that triangle pattern. And so when it's moving, because it's not subpixel movement essentially, or because the resolution is what it is, it's such a low resolution. I don't know, from what I'm seeing on the playback, it looks like you guys see almost like a moire pattern with the way it's aliasing the pixels. I'd have to see. I've got a CRT here that I can plug it into and see. I'm not going to do that now. I'd be curious to see what the... Here, let's do this. Curious to know... Just give me a second. I'm going to grab my my EverDrive. I want to see what the ABS looks like. I want to see what the ABS looks like if we plug it in, if it's just a issue with the way the emulator is displaying it, or if it's actually going to be a problem. I suspect it's going to be a problem, but we'll see. Shooter.nes, where are you? Why the hell is my computer running so slow? It's like something is killing my CPU right now. Task Manager should not be taking this long. Let me close Visual Studio Code. OBS is taking up most of it. Oh, Explorer is taking up 30%. That's great. So let's restart Explorer so that it can get itself together. It's still... let's see here. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I don't understand why Explorer is taking up so much. What is it doing? ETW RT Defender API logger. So Windows Defender, possibly. Yeah, Windows Defender is deciding that it wants to do something on my computer, I guess, and slowing things down. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to turn... Not allowed to turn things off on my own computer. Even if it's causing this system to run like garbage. Although now it seems like it's less problematic. Is it done figuring... Oh, SQL Server, of course. Carbonite. Just random things running on my PC. Alright, let's, now that things seem to have calmed down, let's, I miss when systems just ran what you told them to run. Okay. That's my C drive. Okay. So let's see what the AVS thinks about the way this looks. Sorry that took so long. See if this will actually fire up the way I hope it will. Oh, good. Well, that's exciting. Hey, Banchaku. Let's see if this works here. So see what that looks like. So it does seem to be doing that shimmer still, but it's not. Yeah, you missed me dealing with some weird issues about the way some code was jumping to a label. That was interesting. Why isn't this resetting? And then we tried to add some graphics that Jordan gave me for the background and stumbled on a bug with the asset tool that is causing it to... Come on, controller. One of these 8-bit DOE wireless controllers, and it only infrequently wants to sync up the first attempt at resetting. It's a good controller otherwise, but the sync process is kind of annoying. Anyway, so, and then the asset tool export seems to be broken, where it will sort of randomly, depending on where you're exporting from, generate char-ROM that's too big. So it's been interesting. Come on, man. Will you sync up and let me do something already? There we go. For crying out loud. Alright, so the background... Things always break when you really... Yeah, it's not even that they're just breaking. It's just strange behaviors tonight. Not what I was expecting. I'm okay with things breaking, but only for reasonable reasons. Yeah, so the shimmering isn't quite as bad. I mean, it's still not great. I don't know what you guys are seeing on your side through the AVS feed. It seems like it should be okay. But here, let me switch back to the desktop. So we're going to have to work on that. I think that pattern, that repeated pattern, is a little bit too much for scrolling. I think this one, you know what we can do? We can even, let's try this one just to see what that looks like before we wrap for the evening, because I'm curious to see how that behaves. All right, so okay, so that's that. And let's export some things. So let's do this. Let's take that and let's take a look at that. That looks good. And then we'll re-export through here because that seems to be more reliable. Although, you know what? Let's while we're here, let's fix that bug with the missing label after endscope. Done sprite. That was the missing label there. Okay, so let's go to the export folder. Grab everything again. Oh, of course there's a range error. Because why wouldn't there be? Oh, why? Where is DoneSprite? Did I put that in the wrong? Maybe I exported that in the wrong file. Oh, yeah. Wrong file. That was my mistake. There we go. That was silly. Okay. Just putting it in a totally inappropriate place for that to be, which is why it couldn't jump to it. All right. Let's see what that looks like. There. Yeah, that looks much better. It still sort of has that effect, but it's not quite as noticeable as the other one, where because the pattern is so small and tight, it really calls attention to it. So that'll be something that has to be adjusted. So that looks good. And then I'm not going to do it tonight, but we got to start looking at how to get this content in. and figuring out ways to make this work as meta tiles with the appropriate 32 by 32. And potentially we may have to look at how we can optimize some of these so that we can reduce the number of tiles by, well, for backgrounds there is you can't do that. It's the sprites that you can. Well, anyway, that'll be something for next time. So just in closing, it was a weird stream tonight with some of these problems, but as I mentioned before the new year, I want to I do want to make the code available. Like I had said, I want to do some sort of pre-order where the pre-order gets you the ROM at when the game is done, and the access to the source code before the game is done. The code, but not the assets. And then also I'm hoping to do a physical release of the game on cartridge with box and manual, that kind of thing. But that's been sort of at the lower end of the priority list with all the other stuff we're trying to get done here. And nobody's going to want the game if it's not fun to play, so trying to work out those details and of how the game is going to shape out in terms of design mechanics and stuff. So as always, thank you for watching. I will be a little bit more prepared next time with some specific things to do. I believe the stream on Thursday will be pushed to another day, probably Wednesday, because I have something going on Thursday evening. So keep an eye out on Twitter, and I'll post it on YouTube as well. Just letting you guys know. The channel actually hit over 700 subscribers, which is pretty amazing, and I'm very excited about that. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Clearvis. On Nintendo Age, Azelius. These recordings get posted to YouTube every night, and yeah, feel free to drop in, ask questions, suggestions for Zero Pages number 4 or 3.1, 3.2 in assembly language. And thanks for watching, and have a great night. See ya.